This is Bill McMinn from Makeable Bible Church, and this is the Way to Go podcast, where we talk about faith, family, and daily life, putting the Bible into practical, everyday terms. Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. Bill McMinn, Eric Barfeld with you, talking through James 1. I already did one podcast on this where we went through the first 18 verses of James chapter 1. Now we're going to do this is part 2, right? And this is, I look at the first one and I entitled it Understanding Life. And this one is living out the truth. And part of living out the truth then is making sure that we're slow to anger, right? My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. Great stuff, right?
Absolutely.
What do you think? Okay, connection between listening and slow to anger. Slow to speak, quick to listen, right?
Yeah. Well, I was always told God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Right.
How many times did you hear that?
Oh, yeah, I've heard it. Absolutely. I've always thought of this way because it's like you should listen twice as much as you talk.
Yeah,
since you have 2 ears.
Exactly.
So
same kind of thing. And I think a lot of people in our culture today listen just to like respond,
right,
and just give whatever answer that comes to mind with minimal thought, to be honest. Whereas we don't listen to understand the other side, understand and like actively, truly listen to what they're saying, the heart behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I don't think I'm perfect at this one. I think this is a good verse. It's challenging. And so I look at it and I like, sometimes you like to listen to people because there's something to learn there, and you just try to remind yourself, oh, okay, well, I never heard of that, or I never thought of that. And maybe you might be talking about an Instagram or a way a YouTube works or something else. So one day I was show me that. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just kind of curious, how does that work, and how did the views work, and how did it? Exactly. So you learn more, and you hear about things. Like somebody will tell you maybe about a book, or tell you, even podcasts. Listening to podcasts, I think, is a great thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, listen. No, I mean, it gives you an opportunity to learn, and truthfully, like podcasts, especially when there's multiple voices, you're listening to it, so that's what it is. You're just like a fly on the wall in the conversation. So a lot of times it is just learning, because you're listening to a podcast. There's no way for you to talk. You know what I'm saying? Right. So like it's strictly listening and learning. I do the same thing. Like, I listen to a fair amount of books every year, like through Audible. I put my headphones in, and a grown adult reads me a story or whatever. So, but it's always like like the genres that I'm drawn to. They're not stories. It's biographies. It's like I'm learning. Okay. I learned through that.
Right.
And I really enjoy it. Whether it's adolescent psychology, personal finance, marriage, entering a new chapter of my life, like raising kids or childhood behavior kind of stuff. Like I like, that's me learning through listening in that way, which I, for the most part, really enjoy.
Okay.
It's not always that awesome, but sometimes it's pretty good.
No, it just brings up questions, Eric, because I've heard your stories of your college days where you weren't always like that engaged or paying attention, like you always struck me when I first met you as like not the most serious student in the world. Like you were having a good time at college, not bad, but
right.
But not, and then to hear this coming from you, wow, he's listening to like heavy duty books, and he's learning and growing. That's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Actually.
No, and that's my roommate was like, Eric, we have pretty good GPAs for people who don't study at Wink. Right. Well, I don't know. 2.5 is not going to, not everyone can do that. So,
well, here's the thing. I bet if you went today, I mean, listening to you right now, I bet your GPA would be a lot higher.
Probably.
Right.
Probably.
Because you're just at a different point in your life. And when I hear someone like you is like, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to educate myself and stuff. Yeah. I think that's outstanding, because what I learned when I went to seminary was that there's a lot more to learn. And so they had all the seniors stand up. We had like a dinner together at the kind of the end of my seminary days. And they said, what did you learn? I said, what I learned is how much I don't know. That's what I learned here.
Yeah,
I learned there's a lot more to learn. That's what I learned. So, so there's this constant pursuit as you can. So I'm sure like when you're on your bike or whatever, you get that time and you're trying to do something constructive with it, which I commend you for it. I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and even still, like, I listen to books. So I watch loads of videos on bike training and like what's the most effective training, what's just kind of like you just
right.
spin
I
your
have
wheels,
so
literally.
little patience. Like I want to see you tell me what to do to fix something, and I want it to be a 2-minute video.
Right.
Honestly,
I
want it
hear
to be like I'm doing the family games night, so I was watching videos on how to do some games because they're explaining it, and then there's a video. Let me just watch the video. What are you talking about again?
Exactly.
Let me see. It looked like a fun game, to be honest, but like, okay, that's pretty cool. But I still wonder, though, when it says, be quick to listen, love it, love the challenge, slow to speak, absolutely love the challenge, slow to become angry. I just wonder if there's a connection between quick to listen and slow to become angry.
I mean, it sounds like jumping to conclusions.
Right.
If I didn't know any better. And
okay.
And to be honest, talk about a new chapter in my life. I've been having a foster care live in my home these last 7-8 months. She's 6 now, 7, and a lot of times it's like she's very, when she's telling me something of like what happened, and I'm like, hey, how is this broken? What happened? What'd you do? She's telling me the story, and like I don't have loads of patience to listen to it because who else broke it?
Right.
Nobody. It's been me and my wife here for years, and it's never been an issue. All of a sudden, you move in and it's broken. I know how this ends. So like, just spit it out already. And like this is the opposite of mentality I go into. It's just like, okay, like it challenges me because I don't have loads of patience to always hear
I think
her
sometimes,
out.
like did you say jumping to conclusions earlier? Like if you kind of jump in or you assume somebody's thinking something, and then you, I've done this myself too, is you'll manufacture the conversations, and I'm not saying in some narcissistic way. I'm just saying, well, I bet they probably, those kind of conversations, because you saw something you didn't like, but you don't really know all the details, and then you kind of fill in the blanks. Well, sometimes you fill in the blank in a negative fashion. So
right.
I think that's a difficult thing. And I think just when I'm not listening and understanding, I may take offense to something that's really not offensive, just because I didn't really take the time. Just hear me out. You just hear me out, right? So one time my son, and this is just a response thing, right? So I am working. I'm working at my desk. It's the old office. He's a kid. He comes up and he beans me in the head with a marble. Now that's all I know of the story. He's in my office. Marble comes from his hand, clearly beans me in the side of the head. I'm not happy, because pain to me in my world at that point, especially I think you mellow out as you get older. I really do. I would hope you do. I certainly have. And not that, I would be angry sometimes, but this is the kind of stuff that would definitely get me, so it just hurt. And I was upset about it. What I didn't realize was he didn't just throw a marble at me. He was trying to weight the front end of a paper airplane to see if it would throw farther. So when he threw it, the airplane went nowhere. The marble went sailing. That's what happened. So, I mean, obviously I jumped to a conclusion then and thought he just intentionally beamed his dad while his dad tried to work, and he was getting yelled at for that, of course. And then, I find out later that wasn't exactly what happened. Right. But I assumed, like, I didn't even need to ask him what he did. There's a marble on the side of my head. You know what I'm saying? I
never in a million years would I have guessed that was in a paper airplane.
No,
and same kind of thing. Like, we're pretty consistent with rules and routines. So it's like, hey, when we're at the table, you sit down. You're not getting up. You're not going all over the place.
Good rule.
Sit down on your bottom. Scoot your chair in. If you need help, I'll get up, scoot it in. And then sometimes she gets up and starts like walking around the back of her chair like she's going into the family room or whatever. It's like, sit down.
Right.
And she looks at me, I was going to push my chair in. Oh, okay. Yeah, never mind. You're fine.
Right.
Oh, my bad. Right. You're like, oh, I should have waited literally 2 full seconds, and I would have felt less guilty.
Oh, man.
Living and learning here.
Well, listen, you will. And I think there's all, as a parent, certainly there are some days I can, wouldn't mind having back. You know what I mean? Because, okay, maybe I should have cut a little more slack on that one and whatnot. But, we obviously all get through it. I'm close to my kids and all that. But I just think this whole thing, for me, the anger's not as much of an issue. It does say it doesn't work the righteousness of God. I'm just not, honestly, I'm not, I learned a long time ago, just with the whole anger thing, you got to change your expectations. Sometimes you can't, if you have a goal and it's getting blocked, you're going to get angry, but sometimes the goal's arbitrary. So the goal is I have to be in Jefferson in 5 minutes, and then someone pulled out in front of me. It's going to take me 6. So I'm fuming mad. I used to, seriously, this was me all the time. Like, I'd be fuming mad about it.
Yes.
And so I aggravated that someone slowed me down. And I read this book and it said, well, just change your goal to 6 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay. And that was pretty much the end of being upset in traffic, because I realized, Bill, the only reason you're even upset is you set some stupid goal. Like, you set the goal, I have to leave for vacation at 5 a.m. You're all slowing me down, you know, and okay, well, unset the goal. Like, the you is just arbitrary. You put an arbitrary number up there that came out of nowhere, basically, for no real, you know, critical reason, honestly. And we'll get ourselves upset about dumb stuff. And a lot of anger issues do come between the left ear and the right ear. So I'm fortunate in that I don't get that fume mad. I mean, you'd have to really do something to make me mad. I'm not saying people can't do it. I'm not saying you can't do it. Trust me.
You learn to adapt and adjust your expectations, though.
Yeah, even as a coach, I just would not. I'm not a yeller. I'm not a yeller. I don't say mean things. It's not who I am. I'm not saying I'm not perfect. Trust me, but it's just not who I am. I'm not that person. So
that's good.
Yeah. What is good? Do you know what I'm saying? Actually, because then
I'm working towards that.
Adaptation. Yeah, I'm not. It's just not who I want to be. But you'll find as you get older, Eric, that there's a natural mellowing and a natural, like, the things that would would really flip the switch for me.
Sure.
Oh my goodness. Never today would I be upset about something like that. It would mean nothing. I would be unglued over little things at one point in my life when I was younger, where today, that's like be nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it definitely, you learn.
Yep.
You learn.
Definitely.
All right. Well, be a doer of the word, I think, is great too. You know, 22, 25, those verses says, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror, and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what kind of person he looks like. And I'll come back to 25, but let's just take that. Be a doer of the word. Don't be like the person who sees himself in a mirror, walks away, forgets what they look like. Phenomenal illustration.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, again, the whole book of James, I mean, is just practical advice, meaning you ought to be doing it. Right here, right now is the stuff you can and should be doing and working on.
Right.
Again, spiritual maturity is our goal, and James crystal clear just lists it all out for us of how we ought to be living our life. And this is it exactly. Like, if you go to church every Sunday, praise God, hallelujah, what's different in your life as a result? Right. And I challenged my youth group kids. I was like, some of you guys have darn near perfect attendance. Not that we take attendance, but you're here every week. How is your life different as a result?
Right.
Are you stronger in your faith as a result?
Right.
Are you reading your Bible more as a result? Are you a better, more well-rounded individual? Like, what is different in your life as a result? And some of them kind of look around, and it's almost like they're asking in their head, oh, wait, something's supposed to change? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. But like, some people just don't know. They're just like, oh, I feel good being here. I love the music. I love to be able to sing. And I love that, like, our church is so great and there's events and stuff for the kids and this and that. It's like, yeah, but what is different as a result? Because again, what is the point?
We're not perfect. Well, it's like this. The mirror analogy is great. Going along with what you're saying is, okay, so I come in here and I'm out. I had to run an errand. We've got Erin who's in here starting the show. She's got something to do. I'm running late, right? So we run in here and we go. Now, the first thing I do is I want to look presentable. Not saying that I do look presentable, but I'm saying I want to. So I look at myself in the mirror. Not to be vain. It's just I don't really need to do a podcast with my hair sticking out, wind blowing. You know, I just don't. I don't prefer that, to be honest. So I'll make sure it looks presentable, but there would be no point of looking in the mirror if I didn't change something that needed to be changed. There would be absolutely no point.
Right.
There is absolutely no point of looking into the Word of God if nothing's changing. Right?
Precisely.
Right. Because it says be a doer of the word. There's no way we're going to perfectly get that down. And I like how he goes into the next verse. He says, listen, whoever looks intently into the perfect law. Now it's the Bible. Okay, so look intently at the Bible. continues in it, not forgetting what they've heard, but doing it, they'll be blessed in what they do. Simple little recipe for success, for God blessing you on your way. I'm going to look, and I'm going to keep looking, and I'm going to do what it says. And that person will be blessed. Right?
Yeah.
And so I love it. I love that challenge of it. And then here's true religion. Those who consider themselves religious, yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongues to deceive themselves, their religion is worthless. So let's just hit that, because he's going to have a chapter on the tongue in James chapter 3, a real famous passage. So he's kind of maybe telegraphing it a little bit right now that, hey, that's going to come up. And if you really consider yourself religious and you don't keep a tight rein on your tongue, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think about that?
I want to point something out. This is the third time this is episode part 2 and part 1. This is the third time deceive yourself has come up.
Okay, good.
James is obviously on to something here when he says, do not deceive yourselves, and do not be deceived. Right?
Right.
So who's deceiving who here?
Right.
If anyone is being deceived, it's us, and we're the ones doing it.
Right.
It says, like, God's not tempting you. Don't be deceived.
Right.
And then here's the other one. It's interesting.
Right.
A lot of the tripping up and getting fooled here is on us.
Right.
And again, knowing truth, which is also knowing God, which is spending time in His Word. What's different? Going back to what I was just asking, what's different in your life as a result? Well, ideally, you know the truth. Ideally, you know God. And you can set other people straight, and you're not fooled. You're not deceived by the foolishness, the other schemes of mankind.
I like your point. I like your point that, hey, 3 times, that's something worth noting, because if somebody's repeating it, obviously
it's obviously important.
It's important. And
we're in the same chapter,
right?
And this isn't across the book. This is all in chapter 1.
Well, we do lie to ourselves, and we do kid ourselves about times for sure. Time to time, we do. But I think about, and you and I have had this conversation in the past too, but just sometimes people, the stuff they talk about is disturbing, because you're thinking, well, they're a Christian, or they say they're Christian, but they're ripping on other Christians. Like, what?
Kind of weird.
Yeah, right? Like, what is that? How does that go? You're not keeping it, but they think that's okay. And that's where he would say, don't deceive yourself, because that's not okay. It's not okay if you're running other people down. James chapter 3, we'll talk about that. It's not okay if we're saying perverted things. Like, that's not okay. It's not okay if we're lying. Like, that's not okay. And there's interesting, we do talk a lot in a day, and there's probably thousands of words spewing out of our mouths. And now put social media there, where you not only the words that are spewing out of your mouth, but you're typing things out there, which is still a way of speaking. Yeah, keep a tight rein.
Yeah.
Be careful of what you say.
Exactly. And
Right?
I mean, I think that also includes, like the jokes you laugh at, things like that. It's
Right.
It's all kind of one and the same. I feel, but
Well, no, I think it was a huge challenge when I was working at work crew. I'm going to tell you what, man, those guys said some demented stuff. I'm not saying it wasn't funny, because humor is found in the unexpected. You said something that they didn't expect you to say, and it is funny. Yeah, technically, what they were saying had all the marks of humor, and I would just sit there as a Christian, just bury my head behind a newspaper, just try to everything I could do to ignore these guys and the nonsense they were doing, because I didn't want a part of it, because I didn't want to encourage them at all. That I thought that it was a good idea, some of the stuff that they would talk about, to be honest. So be careful. But then he goes on too, and I love this, religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. And 2 things: look after orphans and widows. 2, don't get polluted by the world. And I think both of those are phenomenal. The orphans and widow thing, man, this is all the way back to the first book written in the Bible, Job. They talked about this. Hey, I took care of widows. I took care of the poor. I cared about people. This has been an ethic that has been part of godly people and godliness for as long as we've been here, basically.
Right.
So I think that's huge. And then not to be polluted by the world. I think about things that be polluted, like if a fly flew in your, glass of milk. Oh,
disgusting.
it's disgusting. Exactly.
Dump it
That's
out.
polluted.
Yeah, right.
Polluted. Would you drink it? Seriously.
No.
Would you even drink it? I mean, if the fly is just touched the top, would you drink it? No, I wouldn't drink it.
No, yeah,
Right.
that's gross.
Right.
And I mean that's kind of the thing about the whole book of James. It's this practical action of what we should be doing now. Everyone likes the idea of like helping the homeless, helping the poor, helping the needy, feeding the hungry. Okay, do it.
Right.
Oh, you want me to like actually do it? Yeah, it's not all just like good ideas that we're trying to like build hype about. Like, no. The rubber's got to meet the road here.
Right.
Action.
Right.
And that action is going to propel us forward.
Right. Like us supporting Compassion International. Some support Maya. I mean, because they're helping babies that might otherwise not be here to be here, and that's saving lives. That's a beautiful thing, right? So I think there's a lot of ways that you can involve yourself. I think Halo, I love Halo personally. I know, you and I've talked, there's different experiences people have with it. Mine have been all pretty much positive. Anytime I've helped someone, wow, they needed the help.
Right. No, I mean, that's why, like, our youth group, we take mission trips over summer camp. It's not just fun and games with spiritual impact, of course, but I mean, it's serving communities. Furthermore, that's why all of our mission trips are domestic.
Right.
I mean, students will see poverty, see a lot of rough. I mean, I'll never forget the year we were in Kentucky. During the same week, our a group from our church was in Honduras, and we, like, of the two teams, one in Honduras, one in Kentucky, the group in Kentucky couldn't flush toilet paper.
Right.
We're in Kentucky. We're not that far away.
No, you're not.
And I mean, our conditions, like, they weren't great, to be honest.
Right.
And furthermore, that's why with our junior high students, we do a little at-home mission trip in the summer where we don't even leave the county, and we see all the same stuff. We see the same poverty. We see people hungry. We see the homeless. And we're junior hires. We're doing some little projects here and there just to be exposed to it. Be like, hey, there's big issues in our own backyard. We don't have to go around the world to serve the Lord.
But you got to do something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Exactly. Exactly. And that's what we're doing.
I like I'm doing a Bible study in Proverbs, and like they said, if it's within your power to help someone, your neighbor comes to you today, don't turn them away. I saw a guy came from another country, asked for help, and it's somebody I talked to. I probably hear from him every single day of my life. For years, I've been hearing from this guy. So anyway, I told my wife, hey, the Bible says if somebody asks you for help, you don't turn them down if it's within your power to do something. Don't tell them to come back another day, because then it was like, well, maybe we'll help you at this time or maybe a couple of months. I'm like, no, that's not what it says. It says, if you can help them today, don't tell them to come back. Just help them today.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's important. A lot to think about. I mean, James 1 is a very practical book. The whole book is practical. James chapter 1 is beautiful and awesome. And I appreciate you taking the time to.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's one of my favorite books. Does it say don't show favorites? Yes. Is it still one of my favorites? Absolutely.
I don't disagree with that. I think James is. Yeah. I love my faves are like the wisdom literature.
Yes.
That's Job, Proverbs, Psalms, Ecclesiastes, all of that. Well, James fits into that wisdom type literature, and it's very. Definitely. I think of all the books, it probably very much mimics that, and I absolutely love it. We are glad you've tuned in and spent some time. Feel free to like the show. If you're watching it. It doesn't hurt to take a second, like it. If you want to comment, that's awesome too. You want to share it, even better. We appreciate that. So you all have a great and an awesome week.